SPX 2019. I'm Rusty.
I'm Joe.
And with us we have
Adam Casey.
Adam. Welcome.
Thanks for having me,
Welcome
guys.
back to SPX.
Welcome back, yes. First time back. Last time I exhibited was 2009, so it's been 10.
It's been a while.
It's been
a
10 years.
decade.
I hit the lottery.
Yeah.
My number hit. So yeah. But yeah, I exhibited 2006, 7, 8, 9, and then I think the system changed to the lottery, and then
Took a short 10-year break.
10-year break. Yeah. So
Recharge your batteries.
out in the wilderness.
Get
yeah.
things together.
Yeah.
Very good.
And there we go. Yeah.
What did you bring to SPX this year?
Well, I've been got several different sort of art book kind of related things. I did the Mermaid Challenge back in May of this year, and so I have a book of that. I have working on Demon Babes, which is my twist on the whole Devil Girl pinup thing, but they're doing like normal stuff, like being yoga instructors and just being a punk and being a pregnant mother, like that kind of stuff, like normal stuff. I have that. I've got my Alien versus Predator versus Brown versus the Board of Education mini classic. Probably my final printing now that Disney bought Fox.
Oh, I thought you saw they bought Brown versus the Board of Education.
They might.
Yes.
Yeah, but give them enough time, and they probably
That's pending.
will. They probably will. But
They're in negotiations.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that and various prints and stuff that I've been doing, and yeah, so that's sort of the newest of the new. Yeah.
Nice.
So
what have you been up to for 10 years?
That's actually a really good
Since
question.
last we spoke.
What has any of us been up to the
Yeah.
past 10 years? No, I think so.
I have a list,
Okay.
but it's not my question.
She was like, let me check the index of my journal.
Which day do you want to know?
Yeah.
I used to work at a comic book store. Used to manage a comic book store. Don't do that anymore. And have been focusing more on doing art and doing graphic design and logos and that kind of stuff like that. And if I'm being honest, and I will be honest, dealing with a little bit of depression. So so it kind of made me not really want to do art for a little while. And that sucks because it's kind of like a circular pattern of like, oh, I really should be doing stuff. Oh, I don't feel like doing stuff. Oh, my art is terrible.
Oh, I'm not doing stuff.
But now I'm not doing stuff because I didn't do stuff because it was terrible because I thought it was terrible.
Yep.
And depression tricks you and messes with you. But everybody, you can beat it. It doesn't own you. So that's a message I'd like to share.
That's awesome.
So so that's sort of where I'm at and doing art, which is really fun. I also work part-time in a chocolate factory.
Oh, that's very cool.
A friend of mine from Borders back in the day, she needed somebody to run the front of house stuff, and so I just come up with drinks and all kinds of fun stuff up front, and then that's only a couple days a week, and then the rest of the time I'm drawing, and so that's exciting. So that's what I'm doing.
So it sounds like your two biggest art projects recently are like a series of thematic images that you're drawing. What kind of drove you into that angle instead of like a sequential style?
Yeah,
art?
and I think so I mean I do have sequential stuff that I'm working on. I did, and this is part of this goes back to that sort of being in a funk thing. Was I did a Kickstarter for a graphic novel and thought it was terrible and so redid it, and so still working on that, and so that is taking a lot of my time. But the the theme stuff, it's kind of a fun challenge. A lot of people know like Inktober. There's a couple other ones out there. Mermaid. There's Figuary, which is just figure drawing. There's Kai June, which is just monsters for June. And so I just sort of appreciate this, and I look at a lot of the the work that you search the hashtags and you see people, and granted everybody does things to the best of their ability, but like I wanted to do something like, oh, these are complete works, like this would be a polished kind
It's
of,
not just a sketch.
instead of like a scribble.
Right.
And so I want to do like, here's a complete, this could be like an illustration for a magazine, this could be a print or whatever, and kind of go from there. So, and that challenge to do it all in a day, like it's like a like the 24-hour comic challenge, but just on a single page, a single image. That I think a lot of my single image stuff does sort of tell a story. You do see like body language that kind of conveys something, and so do sort of bring that. So I appreciate that sort of challenge, and then of course seeing what everyone else does, and then after the end of the month you've got like a little zine or art book or whatever of your completed projects.
That's one of the core things I've seen with people is when they do participate and they complete it all the way. You get that daily motivation from seeing everybody else's.
Right.
But then, at the end of the month, if nothing else, you can make a zine and have like a 30-page art book.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, back to even when we said the term like scribble and doodle and sketch, I feel like a lot of artists are self-deprecating and like, oh, it's just a sketch. Like I spent 6 hours on this. It's just a sketch.
Yeah.
It's a quick doodle, but I used 8 Copic color markers on it. That's not a quick sketch. It's not a doodle. You did a piece of art. You did an illustration. You did a drawing. Don't sell yourself short. And I feel like a lot of people internalize that kind of like, oh, what I do isn't important, and I think that sort of feeds into a lot of the kind of self-image issues that a lot of artists have, and because it is an isolated work, you just draw by yourself, and maybe you with some friends or whatever, but and of course you post it online, but you just have that sort of feedback of like, oh, this is all I did. Well, no, you created this didn't exist before. Embrace it. Don't say I did a thing. I made this, and enjoy your work. So
but there's still a line between having a challenge a day type of activity, and maybe using it as a warm-up exercise, and it's not to demean the finished product, but you're also treating it as just like something to do, maybe to get the juices flowing,
right,
or just to participate.
Right.
But you kind of took it to the ultimate level where you're like, no, I'm going to make this a piece of art. It's just around this theme.
I'm going to accomplish this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did it ever become very stressful for you?
There's lots of times. Like if you flip through, if you buy a piece, you might get the sketch of something else on the back side that didn't pan out. There was I was trying to do kind of like a cool Batman thing one time, and it's like there's probably like 4 or 5 different tries of getting that right, and I just abandoned it and didn't do Batman at all. So there is that sort of challenge of, I have like a running list of things throughout the year for Inktober, because like I said, I don't follow the prompt list, no prompts, no masters, so just come up with my own stuff that is either somewhat topical or something like I recently got into or whatever, and so I just kind of go from there. But yeah, it is kind of challenging because it's like I've had in my head for like almost a year, like, oh, I want it to look like this, and it's got this color, and blah blah, and it just doesn't work, and you just scrap it and do something else. So
yeah, you kind of set yourself up with an immovable deadline.
Yes. Yeah.
You want to make wiggle room within it, but you also want to make sure you adhere to that.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe I change my idea for what the theme is going to be, or what the image might be this day, but it doesn't matter as long as that by the end of the day I feel like I have a fully finished piece.
Right. And there's something, and I guess maybe cheat a little bit in that I will sort of maybe revisit things I did in the past.
Yeah.
Like as an artist, like I've grown, like, oh, I did this like 4 or 5 years ago, this kind of drawing, and now how does it look now, or in this style? Because a lot of my Inktober stuff, I'll do like ink wash over it, and not really, it's not just outline, not just line art, So there is that. I don't know if necessarily that's cheating, but I definitely look towards like the past for inspiration for the future.
You really want to grow. So,
yeah,
so that
right.
makes sense.
And you looked as
it's totally not cheating.
Yeah, because you know where you've been, and you know where you're going. Like, oh, okay, wow, I would like you look at something like, oh, I would completely approach this differently now. I would completely draw this differently. I would do this line work differently. I would do this effect differently. I would apply the shading and the ink wash differently or whatever. So I think that's the introspective part of it is always good for art. Yeah.
Now, you've been coming to SPX in some form or fashion for a very long time.
Yeah, since 2005, I think it was my first year, and then exhibiting in 2006. So yeah, that's 14 years now. 15,
now then you spent some time away.
Yes.
Recharging your bats.
Yes.
What is your take on the current version of the show?
It's really interesting because I've never been like, every time I exhibit, it's never been like, oh, hand over fist money, buying steaks for everyone, and so I've never don't really have that sort of gauge of like, oh, this is a terrible show for me, because really, making any money is, oh, this is a great show,
right?
But I think that as far as like the sort of, and I've had this conversation with several other people too, and it's like, I feel like the demographic for SPX has sort of always been people approximately like 25 years old. Roughly, give or take a couple years. And that's as far as like attendees, as exhibitors, and the books that people are talking about, that's kind of like your main ballpark. And so that shifts. And so and I feel like as society has shifted as far as like, okay, we're open to more, authors of color and transgender and sexual orientation, all these kind of topics, as well as the artists themselves, that has therefore represented here now. So it is I feel like a broader snapshot of sort of America and that kind of, as opposed to previously, and not to knock it, but I mean I feel like comics 15 years ago, even indie stuff, it's mostly sort of male, mostly white.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's the doors have been open by various reasons and by various people, and I think it's made for a more interesting. You see all kinds of different stuff that you wouldn't see before. You're not just like, oh, I'm a guy, here's my autobio comic, or here's I'm a woman, here's my autobio comic. I'm transgender, here's my autobio comic,
Right.
or whatever. So
In different approaches.
Absolutely, yes.
To what they do, because it's not. That's the other thing, not just I'm a guy and this is my autobio comic, but it would be I'm a guy, this is my autobio comic about like my bad relationships, or particularly just about like dealing with a shitty job or
Right.
whatever. But now it could be like this is my experience as a neuroscientist. Really broadly expanded topics.
Yes, I think the doors have definitely been open for that. I think I guess sort of any sort of genre has sort of always been welcome, fantasy or sci-fi or whatnot, and you definitely see different twists on that now. So it's like, oh, this is a fantasy, but it's it's about lesbian elves in the distant past or whatever, and so it's much more, there's much more openness for different kinds of storytelling. And of course, there's lots of enamel pins now. Enamel pins are the indie pop vinyl.
Small Pin Expo.
Small Pin Expo. There you go. Yeah, so that's definitely changed too. Is that it's more about the merch necessarily, but but you got to have the book, and you got to have
you
the
gotta have
art.
a base to
You
start
got to
from.
have the art. You got to have there's still things you can't just like, oh, here's my pins. Here's my Steven Universe pin, or here's my whatever.
Yeah, that doesn't really work. I've tried just merchandising myself without any type of product, and it just fails every time.
Well, I'm not getting your catalogs then. I need you to send me your catalogs.
I didn't even think about making catalogs.
You got to make catalogs, man.
Yeah,
Like the Harriet Carter catalog, the old school ones.
I just been making stuff, and I didn't think anybody. I just figured everybody knew.
You can't make it art in a void, man. You gotta,
I feel so
you
stupid.
got to put it out there for
Like
everybody.
if only you could make a pin without a product to support.
No, I can't. I can't. What is happening?
Our pins.
Oh, I mean, we made. Yeah, I didn't realize you were referencing it. I don't know why I'm pulling it out.
It's called a
You
plug,
can't
Joe.
see it
It's called a
from here.
plug.
Yeah.
We did a pin.
We'll pop it on the screen.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I
we'll
need
do
one
it.
of those.
You do. There's an actual pin with our faces.
Why
on
are
it.
you holding it? No one can see it.
We'll
Wait,
gonna-
squint.
we'll cut it.
Squint.
You can cut it. You can cut
Oh,
it
I'm
away.
gonna
It's gonna
do
cover
that.
my face right there.
Yeah,
It's
but
perfect.
do a spinny thing and like
Yeah. Like going Batman.
Yeah, I need this. Yes.
Yeah, but one thing you've known us for a long time, relative, I guess, but it feels like a long time. And I don't know if you know this about Rusty, but he loves a good deal.
I have heard tale of his
Right.
dealness.
He loves to wheel, he loves to deal, and he loves to tell you about the things he saved and the things he
How
got.
cheap I got things.
And so this year, in celebration of that and his being named a justice,
Yes.
Clarence Thomas, we've asked some folks about like a deal that they got, something they scored that filled their heart with love and made them sing, something you might want to brag about.
Okay, so I don't know if I've told you guys this story, but back in college, I was at the School of the Arts in Winston-Salem. We'll drive home to Johnston County. It's about a 2-hour drive or so. I'd stop midway at a gas station and get a Pepsi and a roll of Sweet Tarts, my snack for my drive. Well, Nestle, who owned Sweet Tarts at the time, maybe they still do, I don't know, had a promotion called Rocket Cash. And you'd get the code.
I remember that.
Okay, yeah, you get the
yeah.
code, you go and put it online, and you can win Rocket Cash, which would be like 10 cents. And ultimately, you could spend it at like various retailers, one of which include, at the time, EB Games, now GameStop. And of course, an instant win of like a car or whatever, Well, the promotion ended, and then it started again. Now, if you had an old code, that old code was worth $1, guaranteed. Now, candy at the time, pretty inexpensive, especially with various, grocery store card deals. So I was going around buying Nestle products, 3 for $1. So turning a $1 purchase into $3.
3 Rocket Cash.
3 Rocket Cash dollars. Got a GameCube with Metroid Prime from EB Games. Only spent $50.
And got the candy.
And got the candy.
All right, so Rusty, you've heard his tale. How do you deem his deal making?
I find in favor. Excellent deal.
I have to say that's pretty amazing.
Yes.
And that sounds like something Rusty would make a quilt about.
I
I
would,
was just
yeah.
so impressed.
Well, I kind of felt like Punch Drunk Love when he's walking around with the pudding cups
Right,
to get
right,
the
right.
airline miles, which is based off a true story too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was my deal.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, like I might like commission a painting of myself.
That's
like
what I was.
With the candy in one hand. and the candy in the other. That's beautiful.
Adam, would you like to answer a mystery question?
I would love to answer a
Let's
mystery question.
do it. First, of course, we got to bring out Quarters the Ghost,
Okay.
the gatekeeper of the
Get a good
quarters.
one. Get a good one.
He is very
This
spooky.
is a 1989 quarter.
Yeah.
All
It's a
right.
fine year
That's
for
a fine
quarters.
year for quarters.
Fine vintage. All right.
Do I read it or do you read it?
Oh, it is a question for you. You shall
I shall
read it.
Okay.
Adam, what's your question?
You rascal. What are we gonna do with you?
What are we gonna do with you?
What are you gonna do with me? You're just gonna kind of give in, and we're gonna go on this crime spree, and we're just gonna do it.
Typical rascal.
We're just gonna do it. We're gonna scam the grocery stores and get all the GameCubes.
Yeah.
I know you think you can manipulate me, but I don't think I should do this.
But Joe, this is candy and video games.
I love candy. I really enjoy video games.
I was already in. I already gabbled it.
Come
So
on.
I'm down.
But it's against the law. It's scary.
Yeah, that's fine.
You only live once, man.
Yeah.
I heard rumor I might live twice,
Law can't get you when you're dead.
but I don't know.
Well,
You know what?
Well,
Then
wait,
if
if I-
that's the case,
then you're
I have
yeah.
nothing to lose.
Yeah, you had nothing to
You
lose.
got me in.
Crunch bars and GameCubes for everyone.
Oh man, how great.
We're gonna be living the life.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or
A
not.
life.
Maybe living the death.
Maybe if not the life, a life.
Who can say?
That crunch life.
Adam, do you have a web presence that you can share with folks?
AdamCasey.com. ADAMCASEY.
Right to the point. I like it.
.com. Yep. And then Adam C. Casey on Instagram and Twitter because somebody beat me to it. There's a better Adam Casey out there than me. Sorry.
A quicker
But-
one at least. That's right, yeah.
Quicker, or at least it was more willing
Not
to
necessarily
jump.
quality, but
Yeah.
speed.
So
Yeah.
I set up a various social media accounts at various times in my life over the last handful of years, and other places where you have to come up with a username, and I started using the same username across all of them. And suddenly, last year, I got a message through Instagram. It's like, hey, can you let me use your handle? Because I use it everywhere. And I was like, where do you use it? Not Facebook, not Twitter, not Instagram,
The dark web.
not
is
eBay.
the dark
Yes.
web.
Maybe on the D-dubs. I don't know. And I said no. I said no thanks. And I blocked all future messages from this loser.
Right. Like, come on.
And I was like, where did he set it up? Like, he's
Yeah.
asking me, like, hey, this is really
It's
awkward.
not like I had it everywhere but Instagram.
No, man, I own it. I'm not telling you what it is because I don't want you scooping me.
I have a similar story in that when I was in college on AOL Instant Messenger
Yeah.
back in the day, RIP, my screen name was just Adam Casey. And I got a message saying, hey, sorry I never really said anything when we were in high school, but I always had a crush on you, and maybe something could happen. And I go, who? I didn't recognize the name, and I was like, what high school did you go to? And it was like, John F. Kennedy High. And I'm like, well, in Marietta, Georgia, or whatever. And I'm like, I went to Smithfield-Selma Senior High in Smithfield, North Carolina, so I think you got the wrong Adam Casey. And she said, oh, sorry. But I'd like to think that was a good practice run, and so she
Yeah.
got it out of the way, and so
Just getting it off her chest.
and so now with the real Adam Casey, she can do it. And then, and I'm a footnote in their story now, hopefully somewhere.
So
Yeah.
you referred to him as the real Adam Casey. What does that make you?
Or her. Oh!